Sometimes when we go lightweight, we concentrate so much on every ounce that we cut off our noses to spite our faces. Today, I'll look at items I call micro gear, little things that make backpacking trips more enjoyable. Probably no one's going to bring all of these, at least not on a single hike, and some you'll never bring because they just don't fit your needs. They're all cheap and light, so function is our main consideration. Bandannas have multiple uses. I bring some on every hike. Black bandana for pre-filtering water before treating. In sediment-rich water, or if there's a lot of floaties, it extends the life of the filter. And black because that's the color of the stuff bag for my filter. It's easy to remember. And I don't have to worry about cross-contaminating pots and pans with something that's had untreated water pushed through it. I use green for wiping the morning dew off my tent. Green stuff sack, green tint. Again, easy to remember. Blue one is for dishwashing or drying. The colors really don't matter. What matters is that you remember which is which and don't mix them up. I found this PVC pipe at a spring-fed puddle, thanks to some anonymous hiker who's probably kicking themselves about their lost pipe. When streams aren't running well and filling a container for water is difficult, there's all sorts of tricks you can use. You'll see leaves used to form a sluice for water to flow over, or hikers trying to find a suitable water cascade with varying amounts of success. This PVC pipe, 3/4 inch diameter, about 8 inches long, is just the thing you need. I keep mine in my filter stuff bag. It takes up almost no space and weighs almost nothing. There's not much you can do with some poorly flowing streams, but for those streams where the water is just sort of flowing but just no convenient place to fill up, this makes life much easier. My wife occasionally buys something she thinks I might find useful on my hikes. Now, usually non-hikers swing and miss on this, but she does pretty well. One time it was a bug net, and I remember thinking, I'll never use that. But I took it with me to not hurt her feelings. Well, I was hiking in Pennsylvania on the Appalachian Trail and the bugs got to be too much, so as dorky as it looked, I threw the net right over my hat and head. Another hiker came by with no shirt, just a hat and shorts, swatting the mosquitoes and cursing. No amount of picaridin or DEET was going to help him. The bugs were just too thick. Besides the odd choice to go shirtless, the lack of a bug net was making him miserable. I bring a tube of hand sanitizer in my toilet paper roll. That way, it's always exactly where I need it when I need it. It won't stop norovirus, but for general hygiene, it works pretty well, and a little goes a long way. During the Cooties-19 pandemic, when I was going from the Delaware Water Gap to Roanoke, I spent the first night at the Church of the Mountain Hiker. I just walked there from the bus station and hadn't even really started my hike. Now, there's a hiker bunk room, but things in there were a little, I guess I'll say stale, so I used the shelter behind the church. No one else was using it, and I really wondered why. Until it got dark. Well, dark in the outside world, but lit by a floodlight pointed directly at me. Now, I had a black cloth mask with me that I used to block the light. Worked very well. Also, on very cold nights, I used it to cover my face that would otherwise be exposed. Really doesn't work for covering my mouth because the moisture from my breath is too much, but over my nose and eyes, it worked fine. I use them especially on the colder nights on the John Muir Trail where the temperature near the ground dipped below freezing. I don't even know where I got this. If you use something like a Jetboil stash, you already know the value of having a handle on the pot. If you use something like an Esbit solid fuel stove or a pocket rocket and your pot doesn't have a handle, this is a great addition to your cook kit. Now this one that I have here can be used as a handle and to pick up the pot by the wire. Makes pouring the water into whatever you're rehydrating food in really easy. Now, are you the type who packs everything but the kitchen sink? Well, you can fill that gap in your equipment. The kitchen sink is a 10-liter bag for holding water. When I was using a Katydine filter, pumping directly from a stream kicked up a lot of sediment, but I could fill the kitchen sink and then filter from there. When Dave and I were on the John Muir Trail, we used water from the hot springs near Muir Trail Ranch and a bit of biodegradable soap to wash dirty laundry. Of course, if you're ever in this situation, always carry the water far away from the source and scatter the dirty water when you're done. It's important to decide this also. Will you filter water into the sink and keep it clean? Or just admit that it's going to be exposed to untreated water? With a relatively clear source that I normally treat before drinking, it was okay for cleaning up with untreated, except things like pots and pans and toothbrushes. For those, always use treated water. I generally just accept that it's for hauling water and that I'll treat if it's used for consumption. A portable shower is one of those that sounds good in practice but really doesn't work so well except on very specific hikes. For me, that specific hike was hiking in the Grand Canyon. On a plateau, for example, you hike from 0 dark 30 until 10 a.m. Then you erect some shade or crawl under a rock or set up camp. You stay put and shaded until 4 p.m. before hiking again if that's your plan. In the meantime, this black pouch holding 10 liters can heat up water in the sun during the downtime. It makes cleaning up more pleasant, especially if you've stopped for the day. It can also double as a water reservoir for long hauls over waterless terrain. Now, I had hoped to use it during my John Muir Trail hike. There were long stretches in the sun, but most of our campsites were in shaded areas. We never stopped at them during the hot part of the day anyway, so this is really not practical there. I had a rope I used for bear hangs and as a clothesline, depending on need. On my second day of my first really long hike, I stopped at a shelter and a hiker there asked me if I had a rope for my bear hang. Well, of course I did. A nice black rope my wife got for me. He says, "Oh man, black rope is a bad idea. You're too likely to miss it in the dark." And of course that would never happen to me. Then as I searched for it, I had a vision of my rope 10 miles back, strung up inside the shelter because it was pouring out the night before, where it still was. I said something like, "Golly, I seem to have left my rope behind." I really felt bad because my wife got it for me. The other hiker, Bad Mojo, was his trail name, had a spare rope, about 50 feet long, red in color, which he gave me. This was before I had understood the need for a solid camp routine where you do everything the same way each time, every time, so as to avoid exactly this sort of mishap. Now that rope goes into the same little bag as my tent stakes, and that gets rolled up in my tent nice and secure. Same way every time. It's been 5 years, so Bad Mojo, if you're watching this, I still have that rope and it's still serving me well. Now, none of these things are going to make or break your backpacking trip. Maybe none of them will work for you, but I hope the concept does. These are a reminder that we don't have to shave every single ounce. Do you bring any of these things? What are your favorite small items to bring on a hike? Let us know in the comments. If you appreciate this content, please like, share, subscribe, and comment on this or other topics you'd like me to cover. And if you haven't seen this video, please take a look at it now. Thanks for watching.